राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे राधा माधव राधा माधव राम श्री राम
Prabhuji, we can start anytime you're ready.
श्यामा सुंदर राधा श्यामा सुंदर राधा श्यामा सुंदर श्री राधे प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद नित्याय गौरा सुंदर नित्याय गौरा सुंदर नित्याय गौरा सुंदर श्री राधे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् ललिता श्रीविशाखान्विष्ट हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी नमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् अष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रये नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हित जगद्दिताय कृष्ण गोविंदाय नमो नमः नमः पंकज नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवसादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे गम करोति वाचा भंगुम लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपं तमोहं परमानंद माधवं श्री ईश्वर भवितु भवितु सर्वावस्थागतोऽपि वा यत्स्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाङ्क्षा सबाह्याभ्यन्तरं शुचिः श्री विष्णु श्री विष्णु श्री विष्णु Hare Krishna, dear Prabhuji and Mataji, Pranam. Krishna Shilpa Mataji, Krishna Lilananda Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Hare Krishna Prashant Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, what happened to your voice, Prabhu?
Prabhuji voice is gone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
After the bhajan meetup. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Hare Krishna Saraswati Mataji, Dhanavad
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, today is an interesting topic. So sorry about my voice. Hope you are able to hear me. Today we
Yes,
can,
Prabhu, I can hear, but if you're not well, you can cancel the class, if you're not well.
it's okay, Prabhu. We mostly read, maybe. Devotees can read so that we can continue this session as a more of a reading session. Also, there is not much that I can explain that one's topic, Prabhuji. So let us see, Prabhuji, please. Hare Krishna. Yes, Canto 9, Liberation, starts with a story of Sudyumna, which tells us the importance of Ucharana and the concentration while singing mantras, right? Because Brahmanas in a yagya, you know, don't chant the mantras with full mind. They get a little diverted. Instead of one word, they say another word, you know. Instead of the king getting a son, he gets a daughter. And after some things, he happens to become 1 month as a man and 1 month as a woman. And the kingdom was so disturbed in that way. You know, in that kingdom, we saw King Vena, King Vena. And he was very unpious king, did all kinds of atrocities. The kingdom was not so good. Then sages decided to kill him and cut his body. And from that body comes our Ravagana king. The dynasty continues and it goes on, goes on, goes on like that. And we see in this Canto 8, Lord Ramachandra comes, right? The Lord Ramachandra, and his Vrittanta is given. And then our Prabhuji explained like 2-3 days ago about Maharaj Parshuram Bhagwan ki jai, And Nani Ekadashi day, it was so much of bloodshed, how his mother gets a little bit disturbed by the Gandharva taking shower, celestial woman. Then Parshuram was ordered to kill mother and all 3 brothers. Then he pacified his father Jamadagni. And when he is pleased, all of them brought back to life, but they don't even remember what happened. Yesterday, Mataji has given a lecture on dynasties of King Pururava, right? And then today we are seeing King Yayati achieving liberation, chapter 19. It's more of a reading chapter. So I also seek your help in reading as my voice is a little not good. Any of you want to take the first verse, Prashant Prabhuji? I saw you unmute. You want to read? Please. You can choose whether to read the Sanskrit.
I don't have any book actually.
Prabhuji, you are seeing it on the screen.
My screen is so small, tiny. Okay, let me read. I should read. Okay,
No problem. Saraswati Mataji, are you in a position to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Chapter 18, King Yayati regains his youth. Text number 1. Shri Sukha Uvacha Yatir Yayati Samyatir Ayatir Viyati Kritihi Sadime Nahu Shashyasan Indriyani Vadehinah Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadev Goswami said, "O King Parikshit, as the embodied soul has 6 senses, King Nakusha had 6 sons, named Yati, Yayati, Samyati, Ayati, Viyati, and Kriti." Text 2. राज्यं नैषद्यति पित्रा दत्तं तत् परिणामवित् यत्रा प्रविष्टपुरुषा आत्मानं नावबुध्यते. Translation: When one enters the post of king or head of the government, one cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. Knowing this, Yati, the eldest son of Nahusha, did not accept the power to rule, although it was offered by his father. Purport: Self-realization is the prime objective of human civilization, and it is regarded seriously by those who are situated in the mode of goodness and have developed the Brahmanical qualities. Kshatriyas are generally endowed with material qualities conducive to gaining material wealth, uh, and enjoying sense gratification. But those who are spiritually advanced are not interested in material opulence. Indeed, they accept only the bare necessities for a life of spiritual advancement in self-realization. It is specifically mentioned here that if one enters political life, especially in the modern day, one loses the chance for human perfection. Nonetheless, one can attain the highest perfection if one hears Srimad Bhagavatam. This hearing is described as Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Maharaj Parikshit was involved in politics, but because at the end of his life he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadev Goswami, he attained perfection very easily. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore suggested स्थाने स्थिताः श्रुतिगतां तनुवान् मनोभिर् ये प्रायशो जिता जितोऽपि असि तैस्त्रीलोक्याम्. Bhagavatam 10.14.3. Regardless of whether one is in the mode of passion, ignorance, or goodness, if one regularly hears Srimad Bhagavatam from the self-realized soul, one is freed from the bondage of material involvement. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Thank
First
you.
2 very important verses. King Nahusha had 6 sons: Yati, Yayati, Samyati, Ayati, Viyati, and Kriti. And the one in the discussion or the chapter is King Yayati, right? The elderly brother of all, Yati, has rejected to take the post of the king, telling, one cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. And what Prabhupada is explaining in the, purport is, if a position becomes, impediment in our Krishna consciousness, probably we should not take that. We also see in the example of anybody wants to say who rejected to take charge because spiritual life is important. Any examples? They rejected their father's orders in order to take Krishna consciousness.
Giriraj Maharaj.
Which Maharaj, Mataji?
Giriraj Maharaj.
Giriraj Maharaj, yes. Anyone else?
You're asking about Goswami's Prabhuji? Goswami's.
Anyone, Mataji, anyone who
Yeah.
has disregarded the father's instruction in order to take Krishna consciousness, in order to get liberation, for example. 4 Kumaras are there, right? Bali Maharaj is there, disregarded the Guru's instruction of not trusting this dwarf man, right? Many examples are there. So if here for King Yati, for the elder son Yati, becoming a king is an impediment to self-realization. So he is rejecting that way. Like that. Hence, the second son, Yayati, takes charge. That we read in the next verse. Text 3, anyone, please? 3 and 4.
I'll read Prabhuji.
Next.
पितरि ब्रह्मिस्ते स्थानाद् इन्द्रियाणादर्शनाद्विजः प्रापितेयाजगरत्वं वै ययातिरभवं नृपः. Translations and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: because Nahusha, the father of Yayati, molested Indra's wife, Shachi, who then complained to Agastya and other Brahmanas, these saintly Brahmanas cursed Nahusha to fall from the heavenly planets and be degraded to the status of a python. Consequently, Yayati became the king. Text 4. चतर्श्व आदिशः दीक्षु भ्राता यवीयसः क्रतोदरो जगोपो पौर्विं कावस्याय वृषपावनः. Translation: King Yayati had 4 younger brothers whom he allowed to rule the 4 directions. Yayati himself married Devyani, the daughter of Shukracharya, and Sharmistha, the daughter of Vrishaparva, and ruled the entire earth. Very good.
Yeah, we are familiar with word Devayani, right? Character Devayani. And this famous story comes. And this chapter addresses one very important impediment of any living entity, that is lust. This chapter concentrates on how powerful is lust. You know, even after enjoying all the material things available in the world, the lust is not satiated. That is the point this chapter mainly emphasizes. On how the proudness of one varna drags one person. Also, we will see in this chapter. Yes, Yayati now became king and marries daughter of Shukracharya, who is the head priest of Asuras, takes on the side of Asuras. And then Sharmishta, she is from Kshatriya Kula. Vrishaparva, though works at Shukracharya, is a Kshatriya. Hare Krishna. Text 5, please. Anyone kindly help?
I can do Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Text 5. Shri Vacha Brahmarshiribhagavan Kavya Kshatrabandhuscha Nahusha Rajanya Viprayo Kasmat Vivaha Pratilomakaha. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaj Parikshit said, Shukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana and Maharaja Yayati was a Kshatriya. Therefore, I am curious to know how there occurred this Pratiloma marriage between a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. Purport. According to the Vedic system, marriages between Kshatriyas and Kshatriyas or between Brahmanas and Brahmanas are the general custom. If marriages sometimes take place between different classes, these marriages are of 2 types, namely Anuloma and Pratiloma. Anuloma marriages between a Brahmana and the daughter of a Kshatriya is permissible, but Pratiloma marriage between a Kshatriya and the daughter of a Brahmana is not generally allowed. Therefore, Maharaja Parikshit was curious about how Shukracharya, a powerful Brahmana, could accept the principle of Pratiloma. Maharaja Parikshit was eager to know the cause for this uncommon marriage. Hare Krishna.
Making it interesting, right? His Grace Balgovinda Prabhuji explains why shouldn't be this Aniloma, Pratiloma marriages? Or what are the benefits by getting married in the same Varna? Is it racism in Sanatan? No, right? It is simply because the life becomes much easier for the woman and man, in olden India, majorly in rural India, all the varnas were divided, the caste of blacksmith was stayed in one place, you know. So both the families have so much familiarity about their vritti, their profession and everything. So life becomes much simpler was the idea, you know. Prabhuji explained in one of his classes. Text 6 and 7, anyone please. Arvind Prabhuji, are you taking it?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Danda Pranam.
Dana Pranam Prabhuji.
Text 6 to 7. Sri Sukha Uvacha ekada Danavendrasya Sarmishtanama Kanyaka Saka Sahasra Samyukta Guruputraya cha Bhamini Devayanyaya Purodhyane Pushpita Druma Sankhule Vyachuratkala Gitali Nalini Puline Bala. Translation purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sukadev Goswami said, one day, Rishaparva's daughter, Sarmishta, who was innocent but angry by nature, was walking with Devayani, the daughter of Sukracharya, and with thousands of friends in the palace garden. The garden was full of lotuses and trees of flowers and fruits and was inhabited by sweetly singing birds and bumblebees. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Text 8 and 9, anyone please.
Nobody
You
is
can-
saying I can do, Prabhuji.
Yes, Maharaj, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I have a severe bad throat, Prabhuji. Dhanwad Pranam, please.
Same with me, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I'll be on the listening.
Deepa Mataji, please go ahead.
ताजलाशयम् आसाद्य कन्याकमललोचना तीरे न्यस्य दुकूलानि विजहृष्यसिञ्चतीर्मिथः. Translation: When the young lotus-eyed girls came to the bank of a reservoir of water, they wanted to enjoy by bathing. Thus, they left their clothing on the bank and began sporting, throwing water on one another. वीक्ष्य व्रजन्तं गिरिशं सहदेव्या वृषस्थितं सहसोत्तीर्य वासांसि पर्यधुर्व्रीडिता स्त्रियः. Sorry, the font is small and I can't see. Okay. Translation: While sporting in the water, the girls suddenly saw Lord Shiva passing by, seated on the back of his bull with his wife Parvati. Ashamed because they were naked, the girls quickly got out of the water and covered themselves with their garments.
You can take more, Mataji, please.
Yeah, sure. Prabhuji. Text 10. Sharmishtha जानती वासो गुरुपुत्र्या समव्ययत् स्वीयं मत्वा प्रकुपिता देवयानीदमब्रवीत्. Translation: Sharmishta unknowingly put Devyani's dress on her own body, thus angering Devyani, who then spoke as follows. Aho nirikshyatam asya dasya karma hyasampritam pratam asmadharyam dhritavati shuniva haviradvare. Translation: Oh, just see the activities of this servant maid, Sharmishta. Disregarding all etiquette, she has put on my dress just like a dog snatching clarified butter meant for use in sacrifice.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, looks like actually there is no mistake from Sharmishta. Since Lord Shiva, such elevated soul, is going on the plane. So they just were in a hurry, right? They were in a rush. And she couldn't find her dress and she took the dress of Devayani. Which is a Guru Putri. Then just by seeing at this, Devayani becomes really, really angry. Yeah. just for taking her dress. She tells many things to her which will be very harsh. His Grace Lilananda Prabhuji tells in his class, sometimes we come to some understanding of a person, but we really don't know what they are going through, right? In this case, Devayani maybe became a little bit too much reacting to the situation. Probably it would have been simple exchange of the dress bag, right? But the Leela of the Lord is to happen. So we will see some harsh words from Devayani. Hare Krishna. Who wants to read next, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
You can skip Sanskrit if you want to. We need to cover so many verses. If you want to skip Sanskrit, that's okay.
Can I read, Prabhuji, or anybody else?
You decide, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, I will read. Okay. Can I skip this slokas, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, yes.
Prabhuji. Translation. We are among the qualified Brahmanas who are accepted as the face of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas have created the entire universe by their austerity, and they always keep the absolute truth within the core of their hearts. They have directed the path of good fortune, the path of Vedic civilization, and because they are the only worshipable objects within this world, they are offered prayers and worshipped even by the great demigods, the directors of various planets, or even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, the Supreme Purifier, the husband of the Goddess of Fortune. And we are even more respectable because we are in the dynasty of Bruhu. Yet, although this woman's father being among the demons in our disciple, she has put on my dress exactly like a Shudra taking charge of Vedic knowledge. Text 15. Translation. Sukadev Goswami said, when thus rebuked in cruel words, Sarmishta was very angry, breathing heavily like a serpent and biting her lower lip with her teeth. She spoke to the daughter of Sukracharya as follows. Text 16. Translation. You're beggar, since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at our house, depend on us for your livelihood like crows? Purport. Crows have no independent life. They fully depend on the remnants of foodstuffs thrown by householders into the garbage tank. Therefore, because a Brahmana depends on his disciples, when Sharmishta was heavily rebuked by Devayani, she charged Devayani with belongings to a family of crow-like beggars. It is the nature of a woman to fight verbally at even a slight provocation. As we see from this incident, this has been their nature for a long time. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Two young women. One is Brahma, one is Kshatriya. When Devayani said so, Sharmishta couldn't just take it. She is answering her in this way. Hare Krishna. Next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam.
Krishna, Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. Please go ahead, Amma.
Text 18. Tasyam gatayam swagruham yayati mrugayam charan prapto yadrucha kupe jalatritam dadarshah. Translation. After throwing Devayani into the well, Sarmishta went home. Meanwhile, King Yayati, while engaged in a hunting excursion, went to the well to drink water and by chance saw Devayani. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, give me 1 second.
Right. Yeah.
And this is another extreme In first place, Devayani maybe shouldn't have told, simply should have exchanged the dress. Now it is another extreme. We see a strong Kshatriya girl, Sharmishta. She just thrown her into the well, almost killing her. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Text 19. That కొంచెం scroll down చేయండి Prabhuji. Yeah. దత్వా స్వం ఉత్తరం వాసాస్ తస్యాతి రాజ వివాససే గృహీత్వా పాణినా పాణి ఉజ్జాహార దయాపరః. Translation. Seeing Devayani naked in the well, King Yayati immediately gave her his upper cloth. Being very kind to her, he caught her hand with his own and lifted her out. It's 22-21. Should I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, Amma, please.
Yeah. Tam veeram ahaushanathi prema nitvaraya gira rajanstaya gruhitomi pani para puranjaya attagraho paro mahu gruhitaya swaya hime isha isha krito veera sambandho nauna paurushaha. Translation. With words saturated with love and affection, Devayani said to King Yayati, O great hero, O king, conqueror of cities of your enemies, by accepting my hand, you have accepted me as your married wife. Let me not be touched by others, for our relationship as husband and wife has been made possible by providence, not by any human being. Perfect. While taking Devayani out of the well, King Yayati must certainly have appreciated her youthful beauty, and therefore he might have asked her which caste she belonged to. Thus, Devayani would have immediately replied, We are already married because you have accepted my hand. Uniting the hands of the bride and bridegroom is a system perpetually existing in all societies. Therefore, as soon as Ayati accepted Devayani's hand, they could be regarded as married because Devayani was enamored with the hero Ayati. She requested him not to change his mind and let another come to marry her.
Of many kinds of marriages, there is one kind of marriage is Gandharva Vivaha. Happened like this. And another type of Vivaha is Rakshasa Vivaha. Even Krishna married Rakshasa Vivaha. Which marriage was that? Which queen he married in a Rakshasa Vivaha manner? Mother Rukmini. You take away the groom and you married is a Rakshasa Vivaha. This is here is a Gandharva Vivaha. Hare Krishna. 22.
Can I do, Prabhuji?
Yes, Amma, please.
यदिदं कूपमग्नाय भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापत्यम् अशपं पुरा. Translation and puppet by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Because of falling in the well, I met you. Indeed, this has been arranged by Providence. After I cursed Kacha, the son of the learned scholar Brihaspati, he cursed me by saying that I would not have a Brahmana for a husband. Therefore, O mighty armed one, there is no possibility of my becoming the wife of a Brahmana. Purport. Kacha, the son of the learned celestial priest Brihaspati, had been a student of Shukracharya, from whom he had learned the art of reviving a man who has died untimely. This art, called Mrita Sanjeevani, was especially used during wartime. Then there was war. Soldiers would certainly die untimely, but if a soldier's body was intact, he could be brought to life again by this art of Mrita Sanjeevani. This art was known to Shukracharya and many others, and Kacha, the son of Brihaspati, became Shukracharya's student to learn it. Devyani desired to have Kacha as her husband, but Kacha, out of regard for Shukracharya, looked upon the Guru's daughter as a respectable superior and therefore refused to marry her. Devyani angrily cursed Kacha by saying that although he had learned the art of Mrita Sanjeevani from her father, it would be useless. When cursed in this way, Kacha retaliated by cursing Devyani never to have a husband who was a Brahmana. Because Devyani liked Yayati, who was a Kshatriya, she requested him to accept her as his bona fide wife. Although this would be Pratiloma Vivaha, a marriage between the daughter of a high family and the son of a lower family, she explained that this arrangement was made by Providence. Hare Krishna.
One else want to take 23.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Shall I read?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Text 23. ययातिरनभिप्रेतं दैवोपहृतमात्मनः मनस्तु तद्गतं बुद्ध्वा प्रतिजग्राह तद्वचः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sukadev Goswami continued, because such a marriage is not sanctioned by regular scriptures, King Yayati did not like it. But because it was arranged by Providence and because he was attracted by Devyani's beauty, he accepted her request. Purport. According to the Vedic system, the parents would consider the horoscopes of the boy and girl who are to be married. If, according to astrological calculations, the boy and girl were compatible in every respect, the match was called Yotaka and the marriage would be accepted. Even 50 years ago, this system was current in Hindu society. Regardless of the affluence of the boy or the personal beauty of the girl, without this astrological compatibility, the marriage would not take place. A person is born in one of the three categories known as Devagana, Manushyagana, and Rakshasagana. In different parts of the universe, there are demigods and demons, and in human society also, some people resemble demigods, whereas others resemble demons. If, according to astrological calculations, there was conflict between a godly and a demonic nature, the marriage would not take place. Similarly, there were calculations of Pratiloma and Anuloma. The central idea is that if the boy and girl were on an equal level, the marriage would be happy, whereas inequality would lead to unhappiness because care is no longer taken in marriage. We now find many divorces. Indeed, divorce has now become a common affair. Although formerly one's marriage would continue lifelong and the affection between husband and wife was so great that the wife would voluntarily die, and when her husband died, or would remain a faithful widow throughout her entire life. Now, of course, this is no longer possible, for human society has fallen to the level of animal society. Marriage has now takes place simply by agreement. Dampatyebhiruchir hetuhu. Bhagavatam 12.2.3. The word abhiruchi means agreement. If the boy and girl simply agree to marry, the marriage takes place. But when the Vedic system is not rigidly observed, marriage frequently ends in divorce. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, very important verse. Thank you. Forgive me, I'm taking a step sills, thinking my voice comes back. Yes, anyone else? 24, please. 24, 25.
I will do that, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Gate rajani sadhire tatra smarudati pituho nyaya vedaya tataha sarvam muktam sarmishtaya kritam. Translation purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, when the learned king returned to his palace, Devyani returned home crying and told her father Sukracharya about all that had happened because of Sarmishta. She told how she had been thrown into the well but was saved by the king. Text 25. Durmana Bhagavan Kavyaha Paurohityam Vigarhayan Stuvan Vrittam Cha Kapotim Duhitrasa Yayo Purat. Translation. As Sukracharya listened to what happened to Devayani, his mind was very much aggrieved, condemning the profession of priesthood and praising the profession of Unchavritti, collecting grains from the fields. He left home with his daughter. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
You can take purport also, Prabhuji, please.
Purport, Prabhuji? Should I
Yes.
read? Okay. When a Brahmana adopts the profession of Kapota or pigeon, he lives by collecting grains from the field. This is called Unchavritti. A Brahmana who takes to this Unchavritti profession is called first class because he depends completely on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not beg from anyone. Although the profession of begging is allowed for a Brahmana or sannyasi, one does better if he can avoid such a profession and completely depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for maintenance. Sukracharya was certainly very sorry that because of his daughter's complaint, he had to go to his disciple to beg some mercy, which he was obliged to do because he had accepted the profession of priesthood. In this heart, Sukracharya did not like his profession, but since he had accepted it, he was obliged to go unwillingly to his disciple to settle the grievance submitted by his daughter. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Should I continue text 26, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, please.
Okay. Text 26. Vrusha parvatam ajnaya prachanika vivaksitam gurum prasadayan murdhana padoya patita pati. Translation. King Vrishaparva understood that Sukracharya was coming to chastise or curse him. Consequently, before Sukracharya came to his house, Vrishaparva went out and fell down in the street at the feet of his guru and satisfied him, checking his wrath.
Hare Krishna. For next 15 verses, can we skip the Sanskrit, please? Because we need to cover so many, about 50 today.
Okay, bro.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So, should we skip
Right.
for a while, please? Yes, each can take 5 maybe. If there is no purport, 5 or 2, 3. 27. Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Translation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The powerful Shukracharya was angry for a few moments, but upon being satisfied, he said to Vrishaparva, "My dear king, kindly fulfill the desire of Devayani, for she is my daughter, and in this world I cannot give her up or neglect her." Purport. Sometimes a great personality like Shukracharya cannot neglect sons and daughters, for sons and daughters are by nature dependent on their father, and the father has affection for them. Although Shukracharya knew that the quarrel between Devyani and Sharmishta was childish, as Devyani's father, he had to side with his daughter. He did not like to do this, but he was obliged to because of affection. He plainly admitted that although he should not have asked the king for mercy for his daughter, because of affection, he could not avoid doing so. Text 28. Translation. After hearing Shukracharya's request, Vrishaparva agreed to fulfill Devyani's desire and he awaited her words. Devyani then expressed her desire as follows. Whenever I marry by the order of my father, my friend Sharmishta must go with me as my maidservant, along with her friends. Text 29.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Translation. Vrishaparva wisely thought that Shukracharya's displeasure would bring danger and that his pleasure would bring material gain. Therefore, he carried out Shukracharya's order and served him like a slave. He gave his daughter Sharmishta to Devyani and Sharmishta served Devyani like a slave, along with thousands of other women. Purport. In the beginning of these affairs concerning Sharmishta and Devyani, we saw that Sharmishta had many friends. Now, these friends became maid servants of Devyani. When a girl married to Kshatriya king, it was customary for all her girlfriends to go with her to her husband's house. For instance, when Vasudev married Devaki, the mother of Krishna, he married all 6 of her sisters, and she also had many friends who accompanied her. A king would maintain not only his wife but also many friends and maidservants of his wife. Some of these maidservants would become pregnant and give birth to children. Such children were accepted as Dasaputra, the sons of the maidservants, and the king would maintain them. The female population is always greater than the male. But since the woman needs to be protected by a man, the king would maintain many girls who acted either as friends or as maidservants of the queen. In the history of Krishna's household life, we find that Krishna married 16,108 wives. These were not maid servants but direct queens. And Krishna expanded himself into 16,108 forms to maintain different establishments for each and every wife. This is not possible for an ordinary man. Therefore, although the kings had to maintain many servants and wives, not all of them had different establishments. Text 30. When Shukracharya gave Devyani in marriage to Yayati, he had Sharmishtha go with her, but he warned that the king, my dear king, never allow this girl Sharmishtha to lie with you in your bed. 31. O King Parikshit, upon seeing Devyani with a nice son, Sharmishtha once approached King Yayati at the appropriate time for conception. In a secluded place, she requested the king, the husband of her friend Devyani, to enable her to have a son also. 32. When Princess Sharmishtha begged King Yayati for a son, the king was certainly aware of the principles of religion and therefore he agreed to fulfill her desire. Although he remembered the warning of Shukracharya, he thought of this union as a desire of the Supreme and he thus had sex with Sharmishtha. Purport. King Yayati was completely aware of the duty of Kshatriya. When a Kshatriya is approached by a woman, he cannot deny her. This is a religious principle. Consequently, when Dharmaraja Yudhishthira saw Arjuna unhappy after Arjuna returned from Dwaraka, he asked her whether Arjuna had refused a woman who had begged for a son. Although Maharaj Yayati remembered Shukracharya's warning, he could not refuse Sharmishta. He thought it is wise to give her a son, and thus he had sexual intercourse with her after her menstrual period. This kind of lust is not against religious principle, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.11. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamashmihi. Sex life is not contrary to the principles of religion, is sanctioned by Krishna because Sharmishta, the daughter of king, had begged Yayati for a son. Their combination was not lust but an act of religion. Hare Krishna.
You want to take 33, please.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Text 33. Devayani gave birth to Yadu and Turvasu, and Sharmishta gave birth to Drushu, Anu, and Puru. When the proud Devyani understood from outside sources that Sharmishta was pregnant by her husband, she was frenzied with anger. Thus she departed for her father's house. King Yayati, who was very lusty, followed his wife, caught her, and tried to appease her by speaking pleasing words and massaging her feet, but he could not satisfy her by any means. Shukracharya was extremely angry. You untruthful fool, lusting after women, you have done a great wrong, he said. I therefore curse you to be attacked and disfigured by old age and invalidity. Text 37. King Yayati said, O learned worshipable Brahmana, I have not yet satisfied my lusty desires with your daughter. Shukracharya then replied, You may exchange your old age with someone who will agree to transfer his youth to you. Purport. When King Yayati said that he had not yet satisfied his lusty desires with Shukracharya's daughter, Shukracharya saw that it was against the interest of his own daughter for Yayati to continue in old age and invalidity. For certainly his lusty daughter would not be satisfied. Therefore, Shukracharya blessed his son in law by saying that he could exchange his old age for someone else's youth. He indicated that if Yayati's son would exchange his youth for Yayati's old age, then he could continue to enjoy sex with Devyani. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else want to read?
Shall I read?
Yes.
Shall I read?
Yes, Mataji.
Text 38. When Yayati received this benediction from Shukacharya, he requested his eldest son, my dear son Yadu, please give me your youth in exchange for my old age and invalidity. Text 39. My dear son, I am not yet satisfied in my sexual desires, but if you are kind to me, you can take the old age given by your maternal grandfather, and I may take your youth so that I may enjoy life for a few years. Purport. This is the nature of lusty desires. In Bhagavad Gita 7.20, it is said, Kamaitais tair hritagnanaha. When one is too attached to sense gratification, he actually loses his sense. The word hritagnanaha refers to one who has lost his sense. Here is an example. The father shamelessly asked his son to exchange youth for old age. Of course, the entire world is under such illusion. Therefore, it is said that everyone is pramattaha or exclusively mad. Nunam pramattaha kurute vikrama. When one becomes almost like a madman, he indulges in sex and sense gratification. Sex and sense gratification can be controlled, however, and one achieves perfection when he has no desires for sex. This is possible only when one is fully Krishna conscious. Yadavadhi mama chetaha Krishna padara vinde nava rasa dhamni udyatam rantam asit tadavadhi bata nari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikraha shushtu nishtivanam cha. Since I have engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. Sexual desire can be stopped only when one is fully Krishna conscious and not otherwise. As long as one desires for sex, one must change his body and transmigrate from one body to another to enjoy sex in different species of forms. But although the forms may differ, the business of sex is the same. Therefore, it is said, Punah punas charvita charvanam. Those who are very much attached to sex transmigrate from one body to another with the same business of chewing the chewed. Tasting sex enjoyment as a dog, sex enjoyment as a hog, sex enjoyment as a demigod, and so on. Text 40. Translation. Yadu replied, My dear father, you have already achieved old age, although you also were a young man, but I do not welcome your old age and invalidity. For unless one enjoys material happiness, one can attain renunciation. Purport. Renunciation of material enjoyment is the ultimate goal of human life. Therefore, the Varnashrama institution is most scientific. It aims at giving one the facility to return back to Godhead, which one cannot do without renouncing all connections with the material world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Nishkinchanasya Bhagavat Bhajanon Mukhasya. One who wants to go back to Godhead, must be Nishkinchana, free from all affinity for material enjoyment. Brahmani Upashamashrayam. Unless one is fully renounced, one cannot engage in devotional service or stay in Brahmin. Devotional service is rendered on the Brahmin platform. Therefore, unless one attains the Brahman platform or spiritual platform, one cannot engage in devotional service. Or, in other words, a person engaged in devotional service is already on the Brahman platform. Mamchayo yabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatiyatyan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. If one attains devotional service, therefore he is certainly liberated. Generally, unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot attain renunciation. Varnashrama therefore gives the opportunity for gradual elevation. Yadu, the son of Maharaja Yayati, explained that he was unable to give up his youth, for he wanted to use it to attain the renounced order in the future. Maharaja Yadu was different from his brothers. As stated in the next verse, Turvasus Choditaha Pitraha Drudyus Chanuscha Bharata Pratyachakyur Adharmanjana. Maharaja Yadu's brothers refused to accept their father's proposal because they were not completely aware of dharma. To accept orders that follow religious principles, especially the orders of one's father, is very important. Therefore, when the brothers of Maharaja Yadu refused their father's order, this was certainly irreligious. Maharaja Yadu's refusal, however, was religious. As stated in the 10th canto, Yadoscha Dharma Silasya. Maharaja Yadu was completely aware of the principles of religion. The ultimate principles of religion is to engage oneself in devotional service to the Lord. Maharaja Yadu was very eager to engage himself in the Lord's service, but there was an impediment. During youth, the material desire to enjoy the material senses is certainly present. And unless one fully satisfies these lusty desires in youth, there is a chance of one's being disturbed in rendering service to the Lord. We have actually seen that many sannyasis who accept sannyasa prematurely, not having satisfied their material desires, fall down because they are disturbed. Therefore, the general process is to go through the grihastha life and vanaprastha life, and finally come to the sannyasa and devote oneself completely to the service of the Lord. Maharaja Yadu was ready to accept his father's order and exchange youth for old age because he was confident that the youth taken by his father would be returned. But because this exchange would delay his complete engagement in devotional service, he did not want to accept his father's old age, for he was eager to achieve freedom from disturbances. Moreover, among the descendants of Yadu would be Lord Krishna. Therefore, because Yadu was eager to see Lord's appearance in his dynasty as soon as possible, Yadu refused to accept his first proposal. This was not irreligious. But, however, because Yadu's purpose was to serve the Lord, because Yadu was a faithful servant of the Lord, Lord Krishna appeared in his dynasty. As confirmed in the prayers of Kunti, Yadoho Priyasyana Bhavaye. Yadu was very dear to Krishna, who was therefore eager to descend in Yadu's dynasty. In conclusion, Maharaja Yadu should not be considered adharmagna, ignorant of religious principles. As the next verse designates his brother, he was like the four Sanakas, Chatusthana, who refused the order of their father, Brahma, for the sake of a better cause. Because the four Kumaras wanted to engage themselves completely in the service of the Lord as brahmacharis, their refusal to obey their father's orders was not religious. Hare Krishna.
Let's say Yadu will receive a curse from the father. Now, Yayati is a Brahmana, right? His sons are also by birth are Brahmanas. But then he curses Yadu to not belong to Brahmana Kula anymore. So they becomes Vaishyas from there, right? So Lord Krishna takes birth in Vaishya family. And his grace Mahabhavi Prabhu from Norway, who is a very, very senior Vaishnava, tells, Krishna conscious life is an adventure. Each step is an adventure. And then he tells once you come to a stable stage, you actually look back at those enjoyments that we were so fond of all these years. Once we establish ourselves, as told in this verse, gradually, we look back at those enjoyments and see, like, that was the thing that I was dying for all my life. It becomes so insignificant, he tells. So the key is to reach to those steps where we see this material world or sense gratification as so insignificant. He tells that stage will come if we decide to go there. And this verse Prabhupada also confirms, that is a gradual process. We have to go through the process to reach there. Then these things might become also in our lives, like so insignificant. Like in the last verse we have seen Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur saying, spit on those desires, right? We may all be come under the mercy radar of Krishna and thrown into that region where these desires become so invalid in our lives. Hare Krishna. Text 41.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I will read, Prabhuji. Text 41. O Maharaj Parikshit, Yayati similarly requested his sons Turvasu, Dhruyu and Anu to exchange their youth for his old age, but because they were unaware of religious principles, they thought that their flickering youth was eternal, and therefore they refused to carry out their father's order. Text 42. Translation. King Yayati then requested Puru, who was younger than these three brothers, but more qualified, my dear son, do not be disobedient like your elder brothers, for that it is not your duty. Text 43. Puru replied, O your majesty, who is in this world can repay his debt to his father. By the mercy of one's father, one gets the human form of life, which can enable one to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. Purport. The father gives the seed of the body, and this seed gradually grows and develops until one ultimately attains the developed human body with consciousness higher than that of the animals. In the human body, one can be elevated to the higher planets, and furthermore, if one cultivates Krishna consciousness, one can return home back to Godhead. This important human body is obtained by the grace of Father, and therefore everyone is indebted to his Father. Of course, in other lives, one also gets a father and mother. Even cats and dogs have father and mothers. But in the human form of life, the father and mothers can award their son the greatest benediction by teaching him to become a devotee. When one becomes a devotee, he achieves the greatest benediction because he completely averts the repetition of birth and death. Therefore, the father who trains his child in Krishna consciousness is the most benevolent father in this world. It is said, Janame Janame Sabhe Pita Mata Paya Krishna Guru Nahi Mile Baja Hari E. Everyone gets a father and mother, but if one gets the benediction of Krishna and Guru, he can conquer material nature and return home back to Godhead. Text 44. A son who acts by anticipating what his father wants him to do is first class. One who acts upon receiving his father's order is second class, and one who executes his father's order reverently is third class. But a son who refuses his father's order like his father's stool. Okay. Purport. Puru, Yayati's last son, immediately accepted his father's proposal, for although he was the youngest, he was very qualified. Puru thought, I should have accepted my father's proposal because he said, but I didn't. Therefore, I am not a first class son, I am second class. But I do not wish to become the lowest type of son who is compared to his father's stool. One Indian poet has spoken of Putra and Mutra. Putra means son and Mutra means urine. Both a son and urine comes from the same genitals. If a son is an obedient devotee of the Lord, he is called Putra or a real son. Otherwise, he is not a learned and he is not a devotee. A son is nothing better than urine. Text 45. Sukadev Goswami said, in this way, O Maharaj Parikshit, the son named Puru was very pleased to accept the old age of his father, Yayati, who took the youth of his son and enjoyed this material world as he required. Yes, Prabhuji. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Chanakya
Prabhuji.
Pandita also tells, Runakarta Pita Shatru and Putraha Apandita. The father who gives the debt to his sons is a Shatru. And the son who is a disobedient and a foolish is a Shatru. Yes, Mataji, you may continue more. Others want to continue, please unmute so I know that you want to read.
Uh, yes, Prabhuji. Text 46, translation. Thereafter, King Yayati became the ruler of the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, and ruled the citizen exactly like a father. Because he had taken the youth of his son, his senses were unimpaired, and he enjoyed as much material happiness as he desired. Text 47. In secluded places, engaging her mind, words, body, and various paraphernalia, Devyani, the dear wife of Maharaj Yayati, always brought her husband the great possible transcendental bliss. Text 48. King Yayati performed various sacrifices in which he offered abundant gifts to the Brahmanas to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari, who is the reservoir of all demigods and the object of all Vedic knowledge. Text 49. The Supreme Lord Vasudeva, who created the cosmic manifestation, exhibit himself as all pervading like the sky that holds clouds. And when the creation is annihilated, everything enters into the Supreme Lord Vishnu and varieties are no longer manifested. Purport. As stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavanmam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is one with the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Absolute Truth. Everything is in Him in the beginning, and at the end of all manifestation enters into Him. He is situated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishtaha. And from Him everything has emanated. Janmadhyasya Yataha. All material manifestation, however, are temporary. The word Swapna means dreams, Maya means illusion, and Manoratha means mental creations. Dreams, illusions, and mental creations are temporary. Similarly, all material creations is temporary. But Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the eternal absolute truth. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Text 50. Just we have 2 more.
Can I do, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
ఇప్పుడు వర్స్ చేయొచ్చా ప్రభుజీ?
Yes. We have just 2.
తం ఏవ హృది విన్యస్య వాసుదేవం గుహాశయం నారాయణం అనీయాంశం నిరాశీర్ అయజత్ ప్రభుం. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Without material desires, Maharaja Yayati worshipped the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart as Narayana and is invisible to material eyes, although existing everywhere. Purport. King Yayati, although externally seeming very fond of material enjoyment, was internally thinking of becoming an external servant of the Lord. Text 51. एवं वर्षसहस्राणि मनषष्ठैर्मनः सुखं विदधानोऽपि नातृप्यत् कदिन्द्रियै. Although Maharaja Yayati was the king of the entire world and he engaged his mind and 5 senses in enjoying material possessions for 1,000 years, he was unable to be satisfied. Purport. The Kat Indriya or unpurified senses can be purified if one engages the senses and the mind in Krishna consciousness. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. One must be freed from all designations. When one identifies himself with the material world, his senses are impure. But when one achieves spiritual realization and identifies himself as a servant of the Lord, his senses are purified immediately. Engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord is called bhakti. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. One may enjoy the senses for many thousands of years, but unless one purifies the senses, one cannot be happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Yayati Regains His Youth. Hare Krishna.
Hearing all many lessons, right? The stories. Anybody wants to add any closing comments? Lilananda Prabhuji, you want to say something, please? If not, we'll take the lessons. I'm sorry for not taking the questions. I don't know if I can answer with this throat. Anybody has any comment or question? Small one. If not, yes, may we gradually become done with all our stages of life and grihastha life, and slowly go to vanaprastha and to the full realization of the Lord and into the service of the Lord, where it is mentioned here, unless we purify our senses, going to Purna Purushottama is tough. So we also see in the example of King Yayati, once he is done with the Grihastha life, then he became satiated with his material life. Then he could concentrate on Hari. And in the next chapter, we will see how we will attain the liberation. So he was a very lustful man and couldn't give up. And he had to steal the youth from his son Puru. Even for such a man, the realization comes at the end and becomes a pure devotee later on. So the hope is high, the medium is available, the seva is coming next week, right? So maybe we all engage in the seva and purify our senses, go to Krishna. वाचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you so much, Leland Prabhuji and Shilpa Mataji, for the opportunity. Thank you so much, dear Prabhujis and Matajis, for causeless mercy on me. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat
Krishna.
pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Dhanavad pranam. Shilpa Mataji, I'm stopping to share. I can close the call.